Hi everybody, Diana here. Welcome to Sew Uncommon, a place to piece and quilt in the hoop. This is your Sunday video. It's the first video for the month of January. It would be our first block of the month, but you're actually going to get two videos this week. I've slid the introduction of the block to Wednesday. You're going to get that video on Wednesday because there were two more subjects I wanted us to talk about before we start our regular monthly block inspiration quilting and then the pattern scenario, which you're going to find out all about in the Wednesday video. I'm going to tell you all about how the month is going to run. But today I want to talk to you about stabilizers and hoops regarding piecing and regarding the actual finished quilting. I thought we'd cover it all at once because really it can be covered easily. And I wanted to get to that so that you had that little bit of knowledge. It's actually going to help you prep a little bit for what's coming on Wednesday. So in fact, you're going to kind of see a little sneaky peeky of what's what's partly coming on Wednesday. So welcome. If you like this video, if you want to be a part of this growing community, which is growing rather quickly, so thank you all so much, truly, from the bottom of my heart, then subscribe to my YouTube channel. Coming Wednesday, you're going to find out another way that you can be a part of this community and see it grow and get lots of cool extra things and all, but that's coming on Wednesday as well. But subscribe to the channel, click the little bell, and set the notifications because we want you to be here. We know that so many of you have wanted to quilt, but you can't or don't want to do it in one of the traditional manners, and that's cool. We are going to talk about quilting, and we're going to do quilting from the piecing to the finished quilting, all on our embroidery machines. I love that we can bring this hobby to everybody now, really. It's really entered into a whole new technique phase for this beautiful art form. We'll talk more about that again on Wednesday, but today, let's talk about two really important things: stabilizers and hoops. So let me go right under the camera because the first thing we're going to start off talking about is oops, actually, let me go back. I need to share my camera with you. That always helps. There you go. When you're a one-person show, you got to remember to do all those things. There we go. I won't tell you how many times I have taped a whole video and then realized I never actually shared the screen. So when we're talking about piecing in the hoop, let's talk about stabilizer for a minute. Here is a traditional tearaway, right? Just an easy, light, medium tearaway. Okay. I know many of you love tearaway stabilizer, and for so many projects, it's wonderful. But I am going to maybe discourage you a little bit from using it when we're doing piecing in the hoop. And that is because, oh good, I kept something over here. That is because when we piece in the hoop, let's take a look at one of our most basic squares in quilting, and that's our half square triangle. All done in the hoop. Isn't that cool? You're going to be learning how to do that come Wednesday. But you can see that the only stitches we use when we piece our blocks in the hoop is a run stitch. And run stitches, you know, they're just up and down loops and loops and loops of thread, right? And so if you have a paper tearaway kind of stabilizer on the back, when you go to tear those away, it is very easy to pull out a run stitch. That's why I discourage it. Now, I know there are some hybrids out there that are soft tearaways and things like that. If you have them, give them a try. I just discourage them because I really feel like you're going to end up having some problems. So we're going to say no for piecing to tearaway, but that's okay because there's other times we can use tearaway in other embroidery things. So if you have tearaway, you're okay. You're going to have lots of projects that you can use that because it's a wonderful stabilizer. We're just not going to use it for this part of embroidery. So the stabilizer I really highly recommend is a good light no-show mesh. It's nice and sturdy. It'll hold up to those run stitches. It'll make a nice base for your quilts. It doesn't really add a lot of weight. See, it's got a great drape to it. It's very lightweight. It's not really adding heft to your quilt overall. And I will tell you that as someone that also conserves quilts, as a quilt conservator, someone who takes in older quilts and repairs them and tries to keep them going for families that love them, or just keep them so that they have them or use them however they want. A lot of times I end up restabilizing old fabrics, because over time fabrics wear. Even our new modern beautiful fabrics that are made so much better will wear over time. And a lot of times I use a no-show mesh stabilizer to do that. And so I feel like if we're getting that no-show mesh into our quilts from the very start, then our quilts are getting that extra life right from the beginning. It's super easy to stitch through. Your blocks feel just kind of like any old block would feel. There's nothing papery underneath. There's no paper bulk in your seams at all. In fact, let's just turn this one over and you can see, super duper easy. Now, if you really wanted to, you could come in, make a little cut, and you could kind of cut some of that out, but truly don't bother. I like leaving it in, especially for my bed quilts and stuff like that. If you're going to do like a small wall hanging size quilt or tabletop or something like that, again, it'll work fine for those kinds of projects. I really feel like this is the best one. Now I'm going to tell you a couple of things. This is a pre-cut. I know there are a few places out there now that sell pre-cut stabilizer sheets that are really great for our 4x4, our 6x6, and our 5x7 hoops. See, perfect for that one. Perfect for our 4x4, and absolutely 100% perfect for our 6x6 hoop. 6x6 is my favorite hoop. If you haven't seen my little short video that I put out a couple days ago on my favorite hoop, go check it out. It's like 15 seconds or less, maybe 20. Check it out because it tells you all about my favorite hoop. But you can see in that 6x6, I was able to get 4 hoops in there. And I know this hoop specifically is for brother and baby lock machines, but maybe your manufacturer creates a hoop roughly in this size range for you. I just find it the perfect size for not only my piecing, but I use it a lot for my quilting as well. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. But these pre-cuts are perfect for those smaller hoops. However, I will tell you that if you're making a block size and you only get 1 block per hooping, buying the pre-cuts can get a little pricey. So that's when I turn away from the pre-cuts. I use the same stabilizer, but I buy it by the roll, because then I can figure out my stabilization and save a little bit. I can come in here and measure. And then what I do is I figure out how much stabilizer I need. Let's say I'm going to make 4 of these in the 5x7 hoop. So I'm going to need to hoop this stabilizer 4 times. I would measure out how much I need for this one hooping, and then I would cut enough so that I had 1 piece of stabilizer. After I finished this piece, I'd take it out of the hoop and I'd just move my hoop over a 3rd time and a 4th time, and then I would just have 1 piece of stabilizer with all my pieces on it. Then I'd take it to my cutting table and cut them out. So if you're using a smaller hoop where you can only get 1 piece in, do it on the roll. It is going to save you a little bit over time, because this much per hooping, you see how much you're saving. So here we've got, this is a little over 5 inches. We've probably got about 6 inches or so here. See how much we're saving? We're saving a good little bit by not using the pre-cuts. So I love it for that. And if I'm going to hoop in something that is bigger, say my 6x10 hoop, say I want to do a couple of my half square triangles. These are 5x5 finishes, just if you're curious. Say I want to do a couple of these in one hoop. My 6x10 is perfect for that. And really, folks, don't try to overload your bigger hoops. You're going to end up getting out of registration and having some problems. So I tend to keep my piecing to a 6x10. And I can usually, like I said, these are 5x5 finish, so they're a little about 5.5 as you're seeing them. I can fit 2 of those. That's about all of that you want to do in one hooping, in my opinion. I find that to work out the best. And so here I can get those 2 in a 6x10, and I can cut my stabilizer from my roll like this because it fits on that roll. Let's take a look at the pre-cut. And the pre-cuts are all really meant for 5x7. See, this doesn't really work in a 6x10 because, see, it's not there and it's not coming on there. So for a 6x6 or a 6x10 hoop, a pre-cut really won't work. So I wanted you to know that. So pre-cuts, I will tell you, let me bring back in this little 6x6 hoop. Let me roll those away. Let's bring our 6x6 back in. So in this hooping, this 6x6 hoop, I did use a pre-cut, but that's a good use of my pre-cut because I did get 4 squares in there. And these are 2.5 inch finished, okay? 2.5 inch finished, not 2.5 inches with the seam allowance. We'll talk more about that in Wednesday's video. All that's coming, don't you worry. So this is a good use of my pre-cut because I'm going to get 4 squares in each pre-cut I use and use up most of my pre-cut stabilizer. So I find that to be a good use of that. So just those tips in regard to stabilizer use. Now there's another no-show mesh called a fusible no-show. So see, it's just like the other no-show mesh, but do you see this kind of a glossy side? That is a fusible side. It's got a little bit of glue on it, perfectly fabric safe. And so when you're working with your squares, you're going to be stitching one down, and then you're going to stitch your other one and flip it. Now, when you stitch this down, you might want to try fusing it to the stabilizer. Since the stabilizer is going to stay in your hoop or in your piece, you might want to fuse it. If you do that, you're really going to need to have a mini iron that will fit in your hoop available to you at all times. I like this Clover 2. This is the one I use. It's the Clover 2. It has 2 of these little triangular heads on them. There you go. Maybe you can see that a little bit better. This is the small one. There's also one that's bigger. I like the small one for when I am pressing right at my hoop and my machine. Also, you're going to want something that you can sit that flat onto. So you will take your hoop out, put it on a press pad, a wool press pad, so that you can do that. And then you can fuse it right to this no-show fusible. To be honest, folks, I think this is kind of expensive to use in your piecing. But I wanted to tell you about it because I get questions about it. Can I use fusible? Can I use fusible? Sure, you can. It's not going to hurt a thing in this world. But I just find it, because you end up using a good deal of stabilizer when you piece in the embroidery machine, it's just the nature of it. You've got to have it behind each of your blocks. I find this to be a pricier option, but you're the artist, you're the quilter, you decide what's best for you. So what I'm going to say is using a fusible no-show is my top #1 choice. If you have other stabilizers and you would like to know my opinion on them, please send me an email at diana@sewuncommon.com at my website, or leave a comment on this video. That's even better. If you leave a comment on this video, that way everybody gets to see that answer and we'll share the knowledge and the love, right? So just leave a comment on this video and I'll be sure to answer you with my thoughts and my honest thoughts. If I've never heard of that stabilizer or if I've never tried it or whatever, I'll let you know that. And then maybe you can try making one square that way, and you can report back to all of us. But there's not too many stabilizers I haven't used, but we're a group, we're a community, and everybody's voice is welcome on those kinds of things for sure. But this is what I'm going to suggest is your no-show mesh. So now let's talk about hoops for piecing. We kind of did that already. I showed you that if I want to do multiples of a bigger block, my 6x10 is good. If I'm going to do multiples of, let's say, 4x4 blocks finished, and I have an 8x8 square, by all means use it. You'll be able to get several in there. Just don't leave a lot of open space, because that's when you can start getting problems. Here, let me settle that down and let me flip this for you. There we go. That's a little bit better. So I try to fit the most of my hoop, but I try not to use a bigger rectangular hoop than a 6x10, but an 8x8 square, maybe even a 9x9, 9.5 by 9.5 square would be okay if I were making bigger blocks. But when I'm making smaller blocks, like with anything, when we're doing embroidery, I try to do them in the smallest hoop that works for that size. Even with a little bitty 4x4 hoop, if I'm making small 1-inch finished squares, I can get several of them in here, 4 or 5 of them right in this little 4x4 hoop with no problem at all. So that is the perfect hoop for small pieces. My 5x7, which most people have, or something of that nature, I think Bernina machines call their hoop that is this size by a specific word name, and I'm not quite sure what that is. If you have a Bernina and you use it, let us know, because I should learn that along with everybody else. We should know those things, right? So in case we ever get Bernina machines or something, that would be great. But what I like is my 6x6. It's really my favorite, because I can get one good size block in here, and especially if I'm making a star block, a block that is more than just a half square triangle, I always try to do those singly, because there's a lot more that you have to do with them than just a simple half square triangle. We're going to be talking about all of those things as we go through 2023 and we start doing all of this great piecing in the hoop, but I wanted to share that with you. So if your machine company, if your manufacturer doesn't have a 6x6 hoop, that's not a problem, because pretty much everybody has a good 5x7 hoop. And this is also great. These 2.5-inch finished ones, I could get at least 3 in here. That would be fine. I might be able to work in a 4th, but typically 3 I would do this way, and I could work those in there with no problem. Again, the 6x6, here is my 8x8. So let's bring that in. I could get a couple. I'm just trying to show you different ways. So with my 8x8, I can't do 2 5x5s. Okay, that won't work. See the overlap? So that would be when my 6x10 would work better, right? Because let's bring the 6x10 in. I can easily get my 2 5-inch finished in there. Okay, so it's really going to depend on the block and how it fits if you want to do multiples. At the beginning of the process, if you're just learning piecing in the hoop, I really recommend that you stay with a smaller hoop that's going to fit your machine or your block the best, and do singles just until you get used to the process. Then you go for it. If you can do multiples, do multiples. It will be quicker for you in the long run. But remember, with quilting, speed is not that's not our objective, right? It's just to make beautiful quilts and things, and to kind of relax and enjoy the process and enjoy the fabrics and give them a little pet. You know, I'm sorry. I was at the fabric store today picking out fabrics, and I did a lot of fabric petting. Do you do fabric petting? Let us know in the comments. I think we all do it, because part of the reason we love quilting is we love fabrics. They're just so beautiful. All those designers out there do such a beautiful, beautiful job. Okay, so we talked about hoop sizes for the actual piecing, let's touch on real quickly piecing hoop sizes for the actual finished quilting. Typically for edge to edge, we'll talk about today. We'll talk more about custom quilting in the months to come, but today I want to stick mainly with edge to edge. A lot of times I get a question, Diana, what size hoop should I purchase if I want to do edge to edge quilting? And typically you hear a lot of people say, use the biggest hoop you've got because you're going to get less hoopings and it'll go quicker. That is an absolutely true statement. However, it might not be what's best for your quilt or best for the look that you want. What am I talking about? If I'm using a 4x4 hoop, my design is going to be denser, tighter in this small area. If I use a 6x10 hoop, let's grab that one, my design will be a little bit more open. If I use an 8x8 or an 8x12, that design will be even more open. So if you want your edge to edge to really be open, then you're going to use that bigger hoop for sure. But if you want a smaller, denser look, your 5x7, even you folks with a 4x4, because you'll do more hoopings. And I want to show you what I mean, because I think I'm probably confusing you. So let's take a look here at some photos that I have here. Here is a quilt that I have used. I've created the quilting with a 4x4 hoop. There you go. You can actually see it. Now I got it set at 100% or 1x1, so you can see right there the actual size. Nice, and a nice little tighter look. Maybe you want your quilt to have that tighter look, or maybe you're doing a smaller quilt and it requires that kind of a look. Then your 4x4 for edge to edge is the actual perfect size. So let's go on and let's look at the second one. Here is a same design as you just saw in the 4x4, done in a 6x10 hoop, okay? And it again is set at 100%, so you're seeing it in actual size, but it's a little bit more open, a few less hoopings. Maybe that's the look you want. Maybe that's the look that's perfect for your particular quilted item, because maybe you're not doing a full bed quilt. Maybe you're doing a table runner or something like that. So the 6x10 hoop works great there. Now let's take a look at an 8x12 hoop. Again, at 100% here. Whoops, I just knocked that out of 100%. Let me bring it back. There we go. So this is the actual size for an 8x12 hoop. Same exact design, but more open, more airy. Again, fewer hoopings, of course, but it gives you a more airy look. And it really, really depends on what you want your quilting to look like. I personally, for my edge to edge quilting, like a really airy look. In fact, let me just grab this little one I have hanging in the background here. Let's go back under my camera. Let's move all of my hoops over. Yes, I have a ton of hoops. And over time, you all will have a ton of hoops. So let's bring up my little 8-pointed star here that I did. This was edge to edge quilt, actually with an Amelie Scott design. I did this long before I was designing my own edge to edge designs. And because this was a star, I did it with the little star design. Isn't it kind of pretty? I love it. And so I wanted this. I like really open, airy quilting. I don't do a lot of micro quilting, but that might be your thing. If you're looking for a more micro quilting, you want to use a smaller hoop. So for this one, I think for this one, I probably used a 6x10 hoop, because when I made this, I think the biggest hoop I had was 6x10. And if you'll notice, I don't have it in straight rows. I did it in a starburst pattern. We'll be talking about that as the year goes on, about using edge to edge designs other than just row after row after row. So we'll be talking about that. But so for this one, I used a 6x10 hoop, and I loved how it turned out. It's for me, it is quilted just enough. But remember, folks, it is your thing, right? You're the designer, you're the quilter, so you get to choose what you love the most. But I wanted to give you some of those tips and ideas because Wednesday is coming, the very first block that we're going to be doing in January. And I wanted you all, I'm sorry, can I just, girls to girls, or guys, you're going to learn something about girls. My bangs are growing out and I want them to grow out, but they're at that stage, they're driving me nuts, right? So I'm trying to get them over and they're always in my eyes. So I apologize about that. Anyway, but you're the designer. You get to do it how you want. No one should ever tell you you did that wrong because it doesn't look like the way I would do it or the way the rules say. Yes, there are guidelines for quilting, even quilting in the hoop, but you're the designer. You're the quilter. You're the designer even if you're using someone else's pattern. It's your quilt. You're designing it because you're picking your fabrics and things like that. So these are tips and tricks that I hope help you and help you to prepare for the video coming on Wednesday. And thank you so much for tuning in and becoming a part of this community. Again, folks, we wouldn't be here without all of you. And oh my goodness, you've made such a difference. Just in the last few months, we've grown by a couple hundred new subscribers here on our YouTube channel. And that's just more quilting friends to have. And I love it. So thank you so much. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It means the world to us. It really helps us get our videos out there for more people to see and more people to love. And until next time, I'll tell you what I tell you every single time we finish a video. Go sew life beautiful. You're an artist, you create beautiful things, and you make the world a more beautiful place. We'll see you Wednesday this week with our first block of 2023. Bye for now, everybody.